Today is the day. We are gonna get this thing put back together. I got her completely torn down. And you know, I'm impressed by this little engine. These cylinder bores are cast in steel. The rest of the block is all aluminum. Here's a good look at the heads. 4 valves per cylinder. Dual overhead cams. The cylinders were all looking real nice. Still see the cross hatching. Pistons are aluminum. I think this little thing's cool. All cleaned up. It looks nice. Last thing I took off was this oil pump, so that's gonna be the first thing I put back on. And so this new oil pump came with the seals, not pressed in. Came with the main seal already pressed in. This seems pretty good. This doesn't have a gasket, so we're just gonna use the RTV. Give where my seal goes a little lube. I'm not trying to go nuts there. That one on there nice and clean. Happy to replace that even though it took a little while. Alright, so we just got the pickup tube in. 4 bolts, all 18 foot-pounds. Had to do it before this part. This one blocks that bolt right there. So the oil pump picks up oil from the oil pickup tube, goes through the oil pump, and then it comes out this feed. So I guess we're flipping this thing over and working on the top side now. Crank pulley, it literally just slides on. I used just a little bit of the waterproof grease. Just slid her back on. Alright, so I ordered this timing belt and water pump kit. ENJ company, domestic and Japanese. It comes with the timing belt, the water pump, the tensioner pulley, the tensioner, and my kit in particular came with new head bolts and new head gaskets. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this thing a quick unbox. Right off the bat, looks like we got a water pump gasket. We got the water pump itself. Mine was in real rough shape, so happy to replace it. Idler pulley, tensioner pulley, and the tensioner held in with a little retaining pin. How nice is that? I'll have to figure out what these seals are for. We'll put all this stuff back for now. Head bolts. This comes with all the washers. Happy to replace them. This whole kit full of stuff. Caution, not returnable if package is open. We're well past the point of no return here, so we're gonna bust into this thing. So I already know that these go on here. And there should be 6 of them. These are the holes for the spark plugs. I imagine these are those. A whole bunch more. These look like the valve cover, bolt seals. We got a whole bunch of seals here. So these are intake manifold gaskets. These are valve cover gaskets. What's this? Alright, so these are the head gaskets. Definitely gonna need those. Exhaust manifold gaskets. It's like doubled up. That's cool. Got a little bent. Shouldn't matter though. They got like a ridge here. Mine were real bad, so those are nice to have. I believe this is the intake manifold gasket in between the upper intake and the lower intake. Be careful getting these off. There's some dowels in there. You just want to knock them a little loose. Take the bolts out. And these just pop out like that. Same with this one. These are aluminum, so I'm going to use my brass and plastic scraper here. Get some of this residue. I'm gonna just assume that these grooves are for a gasket maker, and I'm gonna be using the gasket maker on these. These are cleaning up real nice. The caps on their sides. So if you wanted to do this with the engine still in the vehicle, the manual tells you to just pry the old ones out. But these are metal, and they're kind of clamped in there pretty good. I think you'd have a hard time prying those out. I tried for a minute, gave up pretty quick, and decided to just take the caps off. And I think that's the way to go as far as I can tell. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. We're gonna get some RTV bead, a bead of RTV in here, get a bead in here. Wipe with the acetone. It's got a good surface to adhere to. Get a bead on there now. Take our seal, and I'm just gonna set this one down in there. Set this on top. Make sure it's seated. Push back. Put a little grease on it. Smushes the RTV out just a little bit. We'll torque these down. Manual says 89 inch-pounds. I'll wipe all this extra goop that came out, but we're in good shape. Those aren't leaking for sure. Alright, well, the time has come to get these cylinder heads reinstalled. I'm gonna chase the head bolt holes, with just a Clorox wipe there. These are dry with some acetone. Just to make sure there's no dirt or debris left in there. Make sure that all the threads are nice and clean. I wanted to show you this. I got a spoke here, and I wrapped a Clorox wipe around the end. I dipped the end in acetone, and I make sure you're going counterclockwise here, because you don't want any of this threading into the threads and then ripping off and getting stuck in there. That'd be a nightmare. So you just go counterclockwise, and you just feed it in the bolt holes and let it go down into the threads. Pull it out, and that's all you got to do to chase these threads. I did all 16 of them. I have a little bit of oil in here so that the cylinders aren't running dry as I spin it around. And then I take my clean rag, pour a little acetone on it, and go around and wipe all the gasket surfaces clean. I'm gonna do the same thing with the acetone. I'm gonna wipe down the gasket surfaces on the cylinder head. Head gasket in place. Surfaces are all wiped with acetone. Now we're gonna set them in place. There we go. Look at that. And I got it sitting on there as it should. So I'm ready to grease up my head bolts and slide them in. Alright, so I'm just lightly greasing these with my waterproof grease. And then I'm just gonna get them finger tight. I have to say I probably went a little further than I was expecting to go with refurbishing this thing. I was just gonna slap some new head gaskets in and call it a day, but I figured if I was going that far, might as well clean everything up as best as I can, right? So I ended up the heads of the pistons, the tops of the pistons, cleaned them up real good. Cleaned up the combustion chamber on the bottom side of the heads, and I went a long ways cleaning up the gasket material, gasket surfaces, and all new head studs now. Hopefully this thing seals up real tight. I'm gonna get this thing back to basically stock first, but eventually I think this thing would be really cool with at least one turbo, and having some fresh head bolts and some fresh head gaskets would go a long way to sealing in some boost. So I'm happy to be doing this. I'm going this far on this car. I'm gonna hopefully keep this thing for a long time. I'm kind of more into older cars. I don't really like brand new cars, even though their liability is nice, the warranty is nice. They're just not that cool, There's nothing cool about going down to the dealership and buying a brand new car. You know why? Because anyone can do it. Anyone and their mom can go down to the dealership and buy a brand new car. I ain't into that. So we'll refurbish this one as best as we can, and in my opinion, that'll be cool. It's something I can be proud of, and get back on the road hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm gonna get these all finger tight, and I'll show you the torque sequence. We got our torque wrench here, and we got our number 10 Allen key. We're gonna set it up for 21 foot-pounds on the first sequence. 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one goes to 21 pounds first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, and so the second sequence it says 47. We're just gonna go to 50. Start here again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Heads are on and torqued. Well, one of them anyway. How I want it. Get this other head on there. Like I did before, I'll look through these bolt holes back here. Try to line up the dowel. Don't think I disturbed the gasket too much in that process. Hey, we're not in the right spot here. Hold on. Here's something I didn't mention. See these reliefs here in the camshafts? They make it much easier to get the head bolts in. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin the camshaft around a little. But it's hard because right now it's not bolted down or anything. So I don't know, actually, maybe I'll get a couple of these bolts in first. The ones that I can anyway. And then I'll come back for these two. Yeah, that's the plan. Because I don't want to try and rotate the camshaft right now and pull the head off the block and potentially mess up the gasket. That one was a little tricky. Alright, I'm gonna get these just finger tight and then I'll rotate. So I'll get them all started by hand and then I'll zap them in with the drill on the low torque setting. That one went in nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. Oh yeah. Now we're cooking. There we go. Got them all started. Now I'm gonna put this on like a 5 torque setting. Just for the sake of time. We'll get them zapped in. Alright, now that I got those snugged, I can get my 14 here on the sprocket bolt, and I can get these reliefs here twisted so that I can get I don't know which way is better to go. I guess if I go that way, I still got reliefs here and here, so that should be good. I've got it spun around to the right a little, so all the tops of the pistons are down a little, so the valves have no potential of hitting. Get these last 2 head bolts in. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Oh, that one's a little sticky. We'll do this one in by hand here. It's getting better. I'll just get this one there so away by hand too. Nice and easy though. Good to feel them all glide in. Anyway, we're at 21, so I'm gonna give it the first round here. Start with number 1. This seems to be fine. 35. Right there. So here's number 1. Now we're gonna set this at our final torque, which is 49, aka 50. And I'm gonna get these lobes back a little bit that way. Number 1. Alright, torqued up. You know, I'm gonna clean these lobes off here. I can see some right there. Been just taking my time, cleaning everything up as best as I can. Yeah, it's all looking really good. So these aren't running dry. I just wiped all most of the oil off. I'm gonna squirt some oil on there too. My oiler, just put a little bit on there. Probably just touch the top of the lifter as well. Yeah, I don't want these things running dry. Scoring up the mating surfaces while I mess with this in the future, trying to get it all timed just right. I'm gonna give these a couple rotations. And this one's nice and prepped. And we're gonna move on to the water pump right now. And probably do the thermostat and some of these front water hose connections and whatnot. Alright, so we got chapter 3, water pump replacement. Removal, it's out. Installation. Apply RTV sealant to both sides of the new gasket and install it and the water pump on the engine block. Tighten all the water pump bolts a little at a time to the torque listed in this chapter specification. I'm just going around here and giving this gasket surface one final clean. Let me blow it out real quick. Alright, now I'm going to give that gasket surface a quick wipe. So here's my new water pump. This surface is brand new, but I'll hit it with some acetone anyway. and water pump. I put it out because I was gonna need it soon, I'm sure. The bolts have blue tape like this, that means I numbered them. And if I numbered them, that means I wrote them down on here where they belong. Here we go, water pump. So I coated the gasket on the side that sticks to the water pump, and I stuck it to the water pump. Then I coated the other side of the gasket, and I had my bolts 1, 4, and 7 ready to go with grease already on them. I put 1 in a couple threads, and then I got 4 in a couple threads, then I got 7 in a couple of threads, and that way I made sure it was all lined up perfectly, and then I just pushed it straight back and go. Got it all to stick nice and even, and then I snugged these all up, finger tight. Bolts are torqued. This thing's starting to come together, looking pretty good. Timing set, so working on that. It took me a while to find this idler pulley bolt. It was under something, but I found it. And there's no torque spec in the manual for that one, so it's in. I'm gonna work on the tensioner and the tensioner pulley next. Well, I've got my first issue. This tensioner is definitely not the same. Here's the one I took off. Here's a new one. Can you tell the difference? Bolt holes don't line up. It's definitely wrong. It's frustrating. But luckily this old one was actually in pretty good shape. I could tell the timing kit had been replaced. Wrong tensioner. I'm gonna give them some flack for that. Come out in a review or whatever, but anyway, I'm gonna go recompress this one. Got this thing in the vise and squeezed it, and now I stuck the end of a drill bit in through the guides, and I got it held in place. Now I'm gonna mount it up. Well, it's a little disappointing, but after I got this one in, I tightened the bolt down and it was binding up, and this is supposed to move freely because this is what tensions the timing belt. Anyway, I did a little compare and contrast on the old one, and I got this one torqued down to spec, and look, it moves nice and free. This is a millimeter bigger bolt, and this one was in really good shape, and since I was already using the old tensioner anyway, I figured what the heck, so I swapped it back out for the old one, and I'm gonna complain to wherever I bought this about this tensioner and this tensioner pulley. So I went cheap and got some cheap stuff, and this water pump actually seems pretty nice, but this timing tensioner and timing pulley, tensioner pulley, not as good. My old idler pulley, however, was locked up, and I got this new one, which is DNJ, and this one seems pretty good. So this one I used the old hardware. Anyway, that's the whole timing set. I'm not gonna actually throw the belt on yet. All right, I'm gonna get you in on this. I'm gonna install this thermostat and the thermostat housing. This was something I know for a fact was leaking. And I think my thermostat might have been stuck open because the old one was super janky. I already cleaned this up. I scraped it a little with the brass wire brush, and then I hit it with the acetone, so it should be nice and clean. And there we go. Let that tack up a little. There we have it. Little crevices. It's all thick over there. So this pipe looks nice and fresh right now, but I cleaned it up real good, and I put this engine ceramic enamel. This is just the primer. And this is gray. And this pipe, I probably should have replaced it. Look, it's all pitted and awful. It was super corroded, but I don't want to replace. If I start doing that, I'm replacing everything on this whole car, and it's just not worth it. All right, so I got my bolts ready to go, all greased up. So here we go. Get this set in there first. There we go. Oh yeah, that's nice. I can feel that squished in there real good. All right, now I'm gonna get this on top. We're supposed to cinch them down nice and even. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Oh yeah, all getting on right at about the same point. So I like to see. This one was a little late to the party, but it's on now. Next pipe I'm gonna do, I think, is this one. I'm gonna coat this, I might get this O-ring off, put some red silicone in here, put the O-ring in, and then get some on the outside also. This was what was on there, and it was torched. We'll get this one in next. I forgot that there was 2 pipes for the heater core. I had only refurbed one of them, so I cleaned up the other one, and I got 1 coat of primer on it already. And so I want to make some progress here, and I know I can get this heater, water pipe, whatever you call this. This is where the radiator connects to here, and then the radiator connects on the other side here. But anyway, I got these two gaskets here. I got the ends that they go on all cleaned up. I got my bolts cleaned up and pre-greased. I got these gasket surfaces all acetoned and ready, clean and ready. So I'm gonna get that water pipe on, and it's just 4 bolts. They're all the same. Then I can get the heater core hoses put in as well. Here we go. I got the thermostat housing installed. I got the, whatever this radiator connection pipe is called, all cast. I got that torqued down. That accepts the heater core that runs up over here behind the engine. This runs up against the firewall. And I've got this other hard line down in there. I put new O-rings on these, and as you can tell, I cleaned them up real good and hit them with some engine enamel primer. Everything's just gonna be gray like this. Still gotta replace these 2 heater hoses. Feeling a little accomplished. Got a bunch more bolts sitting over in degreaser getting cleaned up. Yeah, I think all this water pump system, at least for now, is back in. I gotta put this sensor back and a couple more miscellaneous hoses. Well, I wasn't gonna paint these things, but I just so happen to have some of this primer, engine enamel primer with ceramic. Stands heat resistant to oil and fluids. I had this laying around, and I had a decent amount of it, and I was gonna just prime them, and I primed them. And then I thought to myself, well, you also got this stuff. This is Volvo DuraPlus spray enamel, formulated to duplicate original Volvo Pentacolor. These are like big V8 diesel marine engines, and I had 2 cans of this. So I just decided, what the heck. It was green. I thought it was a little darker. They were primed, and I just shot them with the green. And here we are. I think it looks pretty good. I definitely could have done a lot more prep on these things, but that paint's durable enough. I think it'll do a good job. They looked real shitty before, so now they're at least consistent. They match my Klein frame. Kinda, just kidding. Anyway, now they're green. Well, there you have it. Valve covers are on. New valve cover gaskets are in. Put a little bit of RTV sealing in the corners. Got it all torqued down, and they're green. I got the engine off the stand. I got it up here on my hoist. I did that in order to get to this rear main seal area. I want to get the new seal. Well, I gotta get this old seal out first. So here's the kit that I ordered. Comes with the seal and the gasket. Alright, so this old seal was in there pretty good. I don't know how you'd get that off to replace the seal with this on the end. Straight up, I wouldn't even try it. However, I got this one off by just stuck this in right here and pounded on it with the hammer and got it to break a little loose. Then I went around with it, broke it there, broke it there, broke it there, got it to where it was basically flush on the front side, pushed it out just a little bit, and then I flipped it over and gave it one good crank like this, and pop, came right out. No big deal. I'll get the other one pressed in. Alright, the new rear main seal is in, and I got it pressed in with just a block of wood. Put some RTV on the gasket, the paper gasket that it came with, and put it on both sides, stuck it onto the retainer. Put a little bit of oil on the seal itself and on the crankshaft, and it slid on real easy. And I torqued these bolts down to 18 foot-pounds, and that was it. New rear seal is in. Now that I got everything I need, basically that main dowel right there, I can get the oil pan on and get this thing all sealed up. Moving along. Alright, just so we're keeping track here, I want to document the sensors I have installed. We got the knock sensor. This is the cam position sensor. This is the crankshaft position sensor. Oh yeah, one more. Water temp sensor. We got the engine up on the engine stand, cleaned over so that I can get this exhaust manifold gasket, exhaust manifolds installed. Cleaned up all the old hardware, and I already greased the studs. So we're gonna get these slid on. Gasket surfaces are nice and clean. Just give them one more quick clean here. Go ahead and slip this over, slip that over. I'll get the manifold. This gasket surface is nice and clean. Wipe. nuts in my pocket. Uh-oh, I'm missing one. That's not good. I had to go steal a bolt from the old Passport. So I got this on the lowest torque setting. We're just gonna crank them down. We'll go in the sequence that we're supposed to. Now, we'll hit them with the torque wrench. 42 foot-pounds. That's what the manual says anyway. I've been following it. Give them all one crank closer. Give it one more round. Finally, torque them to spec. Wasn't that exciting? Put the covers on them now. Alright, so I'm working on the timing set here. And I got this where it needs to be here. I got this one where it needs to be here. I got it all routed the way I want it. I got this one landing where I want it down here. And so I took the tensioner off and I'm gonna try and get it put back on with everything where it's supposed to be. Top one in, that ends a couple threads. Now I'm gonna try and push. Oh wow. Wow, that worked really good. That is definitely the ticket. Now obviously I've got my tensioner compressed and held with this drill bit here. I should be timed up just right. We got, yeah. You don't have all the tension on it just yet. I don't know if I want to spin this like this, but that should be all timed up. Should be. I really hope it is. Alright, so I've got the engine up on the hoist. I'm going to replace this pilot bearing. And I don't have a bearing puller. I'm going to try the bread trick. Someone recommended I try it. I got a bolt right here that fits in there real nice. And all you really do is shove some bread in there and pound this bolt in, and it's supposed to move the pilot bearing out. Hopefully this works. Alright, so I'm gonna put some electrical tape on here just to make sure threads don't hurt anything, and it's a little small, so fill that space up. That seems good to me. I'm just gonna start shoving bread in there. Got this giant hammer. Not too sure how much bread this will take, but hope this works. I don't want a freaking thing full of bread. More. Hey, there it comes. Are you watching? You're watching. This has literally been one piece so far, but it's coming. Ow. A little more. Hey! And there it is. This bearing definitely was seized up. Probably more because I had gotten water in it when I power washed the whole engine. So happy to replace this one. Hopefully all this bread will come out. All the birdies are gonna love this. Looks like a cinnamon roll. Nice. I'm just gonna put a light coating of this grease on the outside of the bearing. I already cleaned the inside here a little bit. It was pretty clean. This is the new bearing. It looks exactly the same. Don't think it's directional. Put a little on here too, just to be sure. In my opinion, it's hard to have too much grease. And if you're wondering, this is the end of the crankshaft. This is the rear main seal. I replaced the rear main seal already, and we're just gonna push this in. Got my soft rubber hammer here. So I got my socket here that lines up real good with the outer race. I don't think you want to be banging on this inner part of the bearing. I'm gonna slide it in the center here. Get it lined up. Set my socket in place. And hope, I just hope. Oh no, where did I put the mallet at? Oh, it's right here, good. Just hope I get this lined up in there nice and easy. Oh yeah, nice and easy. I actually have a press kit, but it doesn't have the hole in the middle to line up better with the outer race, so socket it is. This is a size 30, and that's going in there real nice. I'm not sure for how far it goes, but all right, that's about as far as I think I'm gonna go. So far the other one was, I think. Cool, she's in. All right, we got our new flywheel here. This is Luck brand. Looks pretty nice. This has kind of a roughish coating. I already cleaned it off with some acetone and a clean rag. Cleaned up all this old hardware. Gonna use just some light grease on it. And this ring goes on the outside of the clutch or the flywheel. We're gonna get it on there. All right, we're gonna get this thing. Oh yeah, we're in. This flywheel isn't counterbalanced in any way and needs to be installed in a particular orientation, so this should be correct. Now, the flywheel still has some room to go in. So I'm gonna use these bolts itself to make sure I pull it on nice and square. I'm gonna use the kind of the lowest torque setting on my impact driver here and try to just get this to slide on nice and even here. Let me get you a better shot. That seems pretty good to me. Now we'll get some lunch and then we'll get this thing torqued down. All right, so I got the flywheel on. Now I need to torque them down. And I just have it on the engine stand here, so it's really hard to get torque on these. So I gotta put these blocks on jack stands underneath these sides of each part of the block. And I've got it supported fairly well now. I got a jack here on underneath the oil pan, and I just add a little extra. And now I should be able to get the torque on these bolts. They are 40 foot-pounds according to the manual. Alright, I got my torque wrench set to 40 foot-pounds, and these are size 17 bolts. And I'm just gonna go diagonal. I'm gonna give them, oh geez, I forgot my flywheel thing. Hold on. I gotta put my flywheel holder pinner thing in that I made. And this is just a bell housing bolt. And this is a buckle that I cut this out of, and it holds the teeth of the flywheel so that I can get it torqued down. Alright, so let's see if we can get these things torqued now. Dang, 40 foot-pounds just really doesn't seem like all that much for these bolts. They were definitely tighter than 40 when I took them off. Alright, they're torqued. Put my white mark of approval on here. Alright, we're gonna work on the actual clutch disc and the pressure plate next. Alright, well here it is. The Exity KIS-01 OE clutch kit. I also got this ACT monolock collar. Per recommendation of the internet, it has this springy thing in it to probably keep any chance of this thing from popping out, which is a common problem with replacing these clutches. So we'll get that on as well. It came with the alignment tool. It's got some very detailed instructions, so I'm gonna make sure I review these real close because I know you can mess this up. Anywho, okay, look at the clutch itself. Dang, I haven't even taken this out yet. So based on the forums, people have had problems with aftermarket clutches in this application. So I went ahead and just ordered the OE specific clutch. Guy that I talked to on the internet said he had to take his in and out 5 times and ended up just getting this clutch anyway. So I can tell already my old clutch had basically it was down to the rivets. This one looks really nice. I wish it had a date code or something on it, but it doesn't. There's the pressure plate. Let me get that out. I got it cleaned up real nice. And there's definitely a couple of nicks in it. I ran some really fine grit, I think 2000 grit sandpaper over it. Smoothed it out a little. It's not really raised or nothing, so it shouldn't be a problem, but... Alright, just so you can see, this came installed. And And it's got, you know, they all have this little bit of play in there. And it has this ring installed. And this ring, when installed, fits into this groove. You get this installed on the engine. When you go to install it, you use a clutch fork to press this in there. And this will just go click. That click is what hold clip in there in the ring into this groove. And then this allows the clutch fork to pull on this pressure plate and release the clutch. But I have this mono-lock collar that is some sort of racing technology, and it's made to replace this whole thing, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna pull this one out. So in order to get this out, press down with your thumb on one side and you pull up with your fingers on the other, and it just pops out. Now this is one solid piece here, and it has these wave springs that keep this pulled in the position that it needs to be in for this not to be able to pop out, or for your pull bearing, whatever, to not be able to pop out. And you can tell this is chromoly, and it's made from one solid piece. This is just sheet metal, and it's been it's just cheaper. I'm happy to, yeah, you can feel how cheap this is. It's got these little tabs that roll over. It's not very nice. It's just much nicer. And there's no actual ring there. Those are just solid chunks. So we'll put this one in. You place this mono-lock inside. You just press down with even pressure and give it a bit of a twist, and this whole thing should snap into place. So I'm just gonna place my hand over it here. I don't even have to twist, I just pushed. And yeah, you can just already tell that's so much more solid. That ain't going nowhere. And so now when you're installing the transmission onto the engine, you'll put this over your clutch fork. You'll put the clutch fork in here, put this in place, and then you'll use the clutch fork itself to push this in, and it'll go pop. However, I'm not gonna do it right now because I don't wanna deal with taking it out and bending something, so I'll wait till the time comes. But anyway, I'm happy to get that thing in. Much better than this cheap, flimsy thing if you're gonna be relying on this clutch. So I'm sure this one would have worked just fine, but... Okay, so I just checked to make sure that these splines fit over the splines on my transmission. And I just gave the splines a quick coating of grease. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and install this onto the clutch shift fork just to make sure it all is working the way it should. I believe you just pull the clutch fork out, get this started on here, and you just push it in over the shaft. Got it all greased up to ensure that it's sliding nice and good, and sure enough, that looks really good. And now this spins free, so when you hit the clutch it pulls. When you let go of the clutch, it releases. I believe that's on. I'm just gonna leave it there. I even greased up the fork feet a little, and I put some oil down in this pin. That's looking the way it should. So I've got the flywheel and the pressure plate super clean, sufficiently cleaned. I'm gonna put these gloves on so I don't contaminate anything. Perfectly clean. I'm gonna put my alignment tool through here, and I'm gonna place clutch disc over the alignment tool. This one says right on it that that is the flywheel side, so we're gonna put this over that, just like that. So now I'm gonna take, I don't think this has any particular direction, so I'm gonna take this and place it over my flywheel. I don't think that's going anywhere. Got the dowels slightly in place. My alignment tool in there, pressed back into the bearing. Really don't want that to fall off. I don't have my bolts ready. I think that'll stay. And I'm gonna go get my bolt and give these pressure plate bolts, clutch bolts, quick clean. Use a little bit of degreaser. Get a wire wheel and all the wire brush and all the threads. Clean off the head a little bit because it was real dirty back there when I took this off. So these are all still pretty gross. Wipe them clean. I know it's such a small thing, but having all nice clean stuff goes a long way, and it just takes a second. I'm gonna go ahead and get all these pre-greased, very lightly greased. Stick them in the middle here. Getting it lined up. That thing ain't going nowhere now. Go. There we go. Alright, so now that I got all the bolts just kind of finger tight, the clutch plate is in there, and I can spin the clutch disc freely. I want to then get this pressed up. Just want to make sure that it's lined up just right. That seems about right. This alignment tool is pretty handy. I can't imagine how you do this without it. I thought I would be able to, but here we are. So now that it's all lined up just right, I'm gonna press this on, and then I'm just gonna get these bolts lightly tightened before I torque them down. Flywheel locking tool back in place. I've got all the pressure plate bolts snugged down to where it actually pushed the pressure plate down. So I went around, I don't know, probably 10 times and just hit them a couple, like, you know, half a turn or whatever, until this was snug to the flywheel, which it was under pressure the whole time, because the whole time you're kind of pulling the pressure plate out. And so I've had this clutch alignment tool in here the whole time, and I can still slide it in now so it's not locked in there. Now I'm gonna go around and torque all of the pressure plate bolts. You know what? I don't even know what they're supposed to be torqued to. Should I just do 40? I think 40 is too tight. I'm gonna check. Alright, so the manual says 180 inch-pounds, which is only 15 foot-pounds, which that's bottoming out my torque wrench. So I just feel like that's just nothing. Absolutely nothing. Alright, probably more like 20 foot-pounds, but they're all torqued. Well, that's all for today's episode. Consider checking out some of my previous episodes. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing so you can join us next time. Thanks for joining us.